Hi, I'm Rabbi Dan Ain, and I'm here with Jonathan Papernick, author of the explosive new novel, The Book of Stone, and John is going to read a selection for us.
Thanks. I'm going to read from the beginning, just a couple of pages.
I did, but there you go.
Matthew Stone opened his eyes and looked down onto the street. People in twos and threes moved languidly in the pale yellow haze, as if constrained by a barely discernible gauze. A whisper of breeze on his face brought him back into his body, his heart beating hard. It convulsed in a sudden, discordant two-step that left him gasping for air. The sleeves of his father's robe hung beyond his wrists and flapped like wings as he leaned over the rusted railing, the street 5 stories below, vertiginous, noisy. A bus roared past, a trail of vapor shimmering in its wake. Stone pulled the robe tight around him, binding his chin against his chest. He smelled his father's scent, the sour odor of his tobacco. It was ironic he knew that he would seek comfort beneath his father's robe. After all, the exact article of clothing that had drawn his father away from Stone during the judge's lengthy trials was the very same robe that embraced him when the endless empty space around him was too much to bear. As a boy, he snuck into the judge's closet, awed by his father's tremendous bulk, and pulled the majestic robe, which forever smelled of the stale smoke of Nat Sherman originals, from its heavy wooden hanger. He would drape the robe over his slight body and feel full as the vast emptiness around him closed up like a slamming door. In an instant, he felt like a superhero, like Batman, like the Cape Crusader. Anything was possible. But that was a long time ago. It was hard to believe that morning the Honorable Walter J. Stone had lived and breathed and existed. He had still been reading a book at 5 o'clock in the morning, as if preparing for a lecture later in the week. Now he was what? An empty vessel? Food for worms? Nothing. Forever is impossible to conceive until it is upon you. The realization that forever is forever is forever. The judge was gone, and Stone was alone in the world. As an only son, Stone faced the overwhelming task of selecting his father's burial accoutrements. The body was barely cold, and the funeral director, a thin arrow of a man with jet black hair and a weak chin, who introduced himself as Mr. Ehrenkrantz, had asked the judge whether the judge would enter eternity in a muslin shroud or a linen one, Israeli or handmade here in America. It had never occurred to Stone that somebody actually had to make such a decision, as though picking out a Father's Day tie at Macy's. He didn't care. His brain fired blanks. He let Ehrenkrantz decide. You'll note, Ehrenkrantz added, handing Stone his father's beloved school ring, yellow gold with a glittering blue sapphire in the center, bracketed with the words Columbia University. Shrouds have no pockets to carry man's material possessions into the next world. However, it is customary for the deceased to be wrapped in his prayer shawl. Do you happen to have it with you? The pigeons cooing on the ledge below sounded almost human, a choir full of sorrow and regret and loss, unintelligible, but almost human. Stone threw one leg over the railing, feeling dizzy exhilaration, a vein jumping in his wrist. He stood on the street side of the railing now as the pigeons chattered, beckoning him forward. You can fly, like us, the pigeons teased. You have wings. Stone spread his arms wide and knew the black robe could just as easily be his own burial shroud. All he had to do was step forward, and the pain would be gone in a pure act of erasure. He could fill the empty space below him in an instant. Instead, he pulled a pack of matches from his pocket and lit a loosely rolled joint. As he inhaled the heat of the burning tip near his skin, he was reminded of the elemental power he held in his trembling hand. He dropped a match onto the street, lit another match, held it for a 5 count, nearly burning the tips of his fingers, and dropped it. A cluster of pigeons rose into the sky and scattered, a pungent rush of air blowing past on the updraft. A few streets over, a car alarm wailed. Looking across the river toward the city and the fading pink sunset, he could see the monolithic twin towers and the crenellated spires of the Woolworth building, all the way to the Chrysler building halfway up the island, rising like a stainless steel rocket ship from the dissonant chaos of Midtown. He took another hit of his joint, pondering. This squat, ordinary apartment house, set against a backdrop of brown brick tenement buildings, was exactly the sort of end he deserved. As the smoke filled his lungs, his father, vibrant with life, appeared before him, floating in the air, wearing a 3-piece suit and half-moon glasses, a paragon of scholarly civility, shaking his colossal, bald head in disapproval. Do it, his father said with characteristic cruelty. You're nothing but a coward, Matthew. You're not even a shit stain in my shorts. Would that make you proud? Stone said aloud, his voice weak. But the judge vanished as quickly as he had materialized.
The novel is The Book of Stone, out now from Fig Tree Books. The author is Jonathan Papernick. Thanks so much for joining us.